what's going on, everybody? My name is Chad, and this week we're doing another textbook review, but I know I promised one of you in particular, Johnny, I know I promised that I was going to do the Hey Sig book, but because I want to make it super comprehensive and how it connects to my regular study program, because I actually use it, I want to give it enough time and attention to detail so I don't have to keep answering these questions week to week for the rest of my life, so I can just link this video. So I wanted to do something that would take me kind of less time. And also, I just got back from vacation, and not to brag, but it's a 22-inch rainbow trout. I called him Patchy because one of his eyeballs were kind of weird looking on the other side. But anyways, on to the textbooks. Anyways, to continue on the trend of me doing books that I happen to already have to start, we're gonna do Jukyu e Iko. I'm sure you guys can tell by the size of the book, it's not very thick. This is a bridge textbook, so it's not a beginner textbook or an intermediate textbook. It's kind of in that sweet meat and cheese area for the Arby's sandwich. This book actually is the first bridge textbook of the Mina no Nihongo publishing house. So if you guys started with Mina no Nihongo, which I did Genki personally, it kind of flows into this book, and then you go into the Jukyu Manabo books, which are their solid intermediate textbooks. Well, solid. I'll do that review later. And just like always, we are going to be doing this on 3 factors. We're going to do format and usability, content, and price. So let's get started. Wow, that was really exciting. My first impressions of the book. It's a very lean book. This is clearly meant to be a bridge. So if you guys had struggles in the upper beginner levels, like when you're learning causative, passive, or that type of stuff, having a bridge to an intermediate level would be a very helpful thing to have. If you blew through beginner and it was cakewalk, just go straight to the intermediate books. You should certainly skip this book. It'll save you 22 bucks. One thing to note about this book, it is almost entirely in Japanese. The words don't have English translations. You have to look them up on your own or have a teacher or tutor tell you what the meaning is. Everything except for basically a single sentence grammar instruction is in Japanese. Now, one of the nice things you have in this book is the explanations, even though it's only one sentence, which I don't feel is enough to really grasp some of these more difficult grammar points, because these aren't all, single sentence grammar explanations. They're truly oversimplified, if I've ever seen oversimplification, is that they do come in several languages. So let's say English isn't your native language. It does have Chinese, Korean, and what appears to be Vietnamese. So if you guys are any of those native speakers, this might be a better book for you than just necessarily using English as your second language to kind of base on the Japanese. If you're a native English speaker, this book probably really needs a teacher or tutor to go over it with you guys. Like I said, this is a post-beginner book, so I came from Genki. Genki, I'd say you'd probably be able to know about 70 to 80% of the words that this expects you to know in a beginner level. If you guys come from a Mina no Nihongo beginner level, expect 90 to 100% of all the words it expects you to know. If it's anything else, who knows? I'm giving you those 2 books because they make up like 80% of the beginner market share. The book has single topics every single week that kind of form around the vocab and the words. Sort of like Genki, a lot more like Mina no Nihongo, if I'm being honest with you guys. And truly, the format makes it not easy to self-study. Single sentence grammar explanations and no word explanations make it really difficult. And then on top of that, you don't really learn any kanji with this. There are kanjis in here they expect you to know, and kanjis they expect you to have learned in Mina no Nihongo or Genki or whatever it is they used before, but it doesn't explain it to you, doesn't teach it to you. It just kind of says, here's the kanji by the end of this book you should know, and it kind of relies on you to learn those kanjis. And you'll see a pattern of that as we get farther up the chain into more advanced textbooks. They expect you to know how to study kanjis, which is why I also don't recommend expecting textbooks to teach you kanji. You need to have your own method, and I will go into that hopefully next week. So I give the format and usability a 6 out of 10. I like that the topics match the words, and they're mostly daily use stuff. They're mostly usable, minus like maybe 20% of the words are stuff I personally don't use. If you have a teacher or tutor, it certainly makes this a very effective book for those who really like immersion and don't like a lot of English. If you don't have that, this would be a nightmare to self-study with. I do not recommend it. Next up is context. Like I've been saying throughout this whole thing, the book is a bridge. It's not meant to be super comprehensive. It's not supposed to be like a N4 or an N3. I've seen pieces of N4 grammar and words in here, and I've seen pieces of N3, more sporadic, but yeah, I've seen that as well. I'd say this is a upper level 4, lower level 3 book, and really, it's pretty straightforward. There's not a ton to it. I actually have it written down. I spent like an hour today going through and counting everything. So it essentially teaches you 0 kanji. It gives you kanjis for the words, but it expects you to just have a way of memorizing them. So I'm going to mark that down as it has zero method of learning kanji. You got to think, for the size of this book, it has about 176 new words that you didn't previously learn, or maybe it wants you to revisit. For a 170-page book, that's not very dense, and I would say for value, that's going to take a knock. However, there are 54 pieces of grammar, which, me coming from Genki, there's a couple that was touched on in the Genki books, but coming from a Mina no Nihongo background, it would be pretty much new. I think 54 pieces of grammar for a bridge course, very comprehensive, very good. I would say that the grammar is really where this book shines, but it's also its biggest setback, because truly you will not get a good enough grasp of these without somebody explaining it to you. So again, great book if you were maybe in a school or have a private tutor, maybe not so much on your own. One thing you guys will notice is the lack of furigana. So it's really making you read the correct yomikata, the way of reading the kanjis. If you guys have already learned it in the Mina books, it leaves the furigana out. It expects you to already know it. Or after the chapter that you've learned it in this book, it'll stop using furigana. It only uses it for the chapter that you are currently in. So it expects you, even after that chapter, to know how to read that for essentially the rest of the book. This is a really good thing if you guys are like, hey, I just want to dive in, but it can be a bit of a step up for people who struggle with kanji. Which is, I think, part of the reason why you have a bridge course, something like this book, because when you it's a big leap from the end of beginner to the start of intermediate. I made that leap. It's a big leap. Having something like this is sort of like a cushion to get there. Not the worst thing in the world. You will, however, get furigana if they are words you have not encountered yet, or they're words in that chapter that maybe you don't know how they're read yet because you're still studying that chapter. So you'll see furigana, but it slowly phases it out as you get into the later levels of these books. For content, unfortunately, I gotta give this a 5 out of 10. The words are what killed it. The grammar is pretty much what gave it that 5, because essentially zero method of learning kanji. That hurts it a lot, but the word count, 176 new words. Not even all new words. Some of them are repeat from the beginner books. For a 170-page book, that's not hugely word dense, and you can get word lists for free, and you can plug them into your, whatever your flashcard system is, Anki or Memrise, or if you like physical ones. I think truly the grammar is the thing that's the best part about this, but again, you'll need a teacher or tutor for the grammar. So content for me gets a 5 out of 10. Now value is where this gets hairy. I'm going to bring my phone out because I have all my numbers on here. So the book cost 2,200 yen when I bought it. That's about $22. Obviously the yen kind of fluctuates and the world's crazy right now, but about $22 for this book. Now for only 176 new words and 54 grammar, I still don't really feel $22 is worth this book. Again, so many free resources, and I do like the textbook method for grammar. I really feel like textbooks explain it very well, and because you paid for it, you are more invested in learning it than if you had just some sort of free grammar system like Tai Kim's. Great website, but you're not invested if you don't pay. And I feel like I want to pay because I want to be like, I spent $50 on this, I want to freaking learn it. I would say all around, guys, this might be a pass. Now, Chad, why would it be a pass? Well, let me tell you. If you have a teacher and tutor, which is where this would shine, truly, I feel like you could make that jump without a bridge course. If you're struggling in the later levels of beginner, instead of moving on, I would recommend spending a month with that tutor, just going over stuff, making sure you have it super well. Getting extra kind of beginner workbooks. So if you went with Genki, get the Mina no Nihongo workbooks and go over that over a month with that tutor or teacher. I really don't feel like for $22 and the amount of time you'd have to go through to learn this book and to plug in only 176 words, it's just not, for me, not really worth it. I would advise that you guys pass on this book, and I will give you other options for bridge courses if you're struggling in the later levels of beginner or the early levels of intermediate, because that's a hard jump. But everyone that's learned the language has made that jump, and I want to be here to teach you guys how probably most of those people made that jump reasonably. And that's why value gets a 4 out of 10. And that means we're averaging about 5 weeaboo body pillows out of 10, which isn't bad. I mean, are you guys struggling in the end of beginner? You feel like you can't really make that leap into intermediate yet, get those intermediate textbooks? Do you have access to a native speaker, either as a teacher or a tutor or a friend? It's not the worst option. There are way worse books than this, but it's not the most effective for your money. It's not the most efficient for your time. And truly, I feel like I feel like most people can make that leap even if they might stumble and struggle a little bit. That's just me. What do you guys think? Have you worked with this book? Have you picked something else? What did you work with when you were jumping between beginner and intermediate, or did you just jump in general? Please let me know down below. I actually want to know, because whatever you worked with, I would like to review and learn myself. If you guys like this video, be sure to like it down below. It helps me tremendously, especially with the crazy shifting tides of YouTube. Helps people find my stuff, helps me keep doing what I is doing. And if you like this video and checked out my other videos and like those as well, I put out 2 videos every week. Saturday live stream. It's not technically a video, it's a live stream. I know Shin always calls me out on that. And I put out a Wednesday video that's like this. It's about Japan, Japanese culture, stuff that interests me, and usually is about like this stuff. So yeah, that's about it for this review. I will be sure to do more of these. They seem to be quite popular with the people watching them. And I will catch you guys on the live stream on Saturday. Be kind to one another and have a good week.